The entire concept of being present is such a simple thing. The other one is being authentic. And the two together makes for quite an interesting combination. And in this, the entire, I don't know if you all know where the Cookie Monster is. I think it's Sesame Street. And the Cookie Monster says that I will be present unless it's unpleasant, and in which case I will have a cookie. Okay? So being present helps us all through really difficult times. We are so focused on living either in the past, or we're so focused on what needs to happen in the future that we tend to lose ourselves in these two things. The one is past, we can't do anything about what happened. And the other thing hasn't even formed yet. Tomorrow will not arrive necessarily like you wanted to arrive. And yet we give so much focus and energy to it. And by all means, I'm not saying don't plan for tomorrow. I think that would be a really silly thing to do. But we've all had the experience that in spite of all of our planning, things just went to a pot of a really nasty word. And then you have to deal with that. And we all tend to think that things are now so bad and I will never get through it. But the beauty of being human is the fact that we only grow through those periods, and it's during those periods that our true beauty starts to shine. And this is where comes in being authentic. Even when things are difficult, just be who you are. Many people then tend to lose themselves in whatever vice they have. Some people turn to extreme religion, other people turn to substances, other people turn to what their parents said you must do during difficult times. I used to have a friend, he was very close to me at the time. He's a minister now. And he went through a serious identity crisis at the time. And we had loads of fun through his identity crisis. I mean, we were all in our mid to late 20s at the time. And nobody could say that we were not wild. We were truly wild. And there was an older lady that lived, we all lived in a commune, there was an older lady that lived next to us. And one day, and I think on this day, somebody was smoking pot on the balcony. And she came up the next day and she says, my God, you lot had fun last night. And it's like, oh my God, we were that loud. And she said, it was good to see here laughter of young people. And that to me is what epitomizes the human experience. For you to be old and wise, you've got to be young and stupid. I mean, the things that I did when I was younger, I look back at those experiences and I think, my God, how am I still alive? The one day, my friends, I used to live in Hillbrow. It was, Hillbrow then was kind of on the fence of becoming a really nasty neighborhood, yeah. And this friend of mine lived in the Marriston. Now, between the Marriston and where I lived, on the corner of Smith and Nugget, I had to pass Box Street, and all the prostitutes frequented that area. And in my anger, I walked from the Marriston over a really dodgy bridge, past Box Street, kind of waving at a couple of people, catcalling. And as I entered the building where I live, I had this voice in my head, it's like, no, you're safe now, but let's not do that again. And that, by the way, was the first time I ever physically hurt my guides. That ever presence that's always with you, and some of them, us hear them in very different ways. But back to my acquaintance, he's now an acquaintance. He has cut out everybody in his life that used to be part of his identity crisis. instead of him saying to the people who he ministers to every day, every Sunday on a pulpit, whether it's now online or whatever format, to say, my God, I had fun. I did such stupid things. The last time we met each other, he said to me, where are those pictures? And I said to him, what pictures? And I knew what pictures you were looking for. It's this friend of ours used to do these sexy parties. And she kind of closed the business down. And all of them, with much better bodies than the girls, by the way, went around in this female sexy underwear. And he wanted to eradicate every single evidence of that time. And for me, the tragedy of this is that there are young people in his congregation that are struggling with those things and will never know that they can approach him with these things, because he now is this leader in the community, and he's this man that now seriously ministers young people and doesn't allow them to see who he truly is. And that authenticity to me is the fact that he's not authentic is the greatest tragedy that he could bestow on his flock. And of course, wanting to now live in a present that doesn't really exist, because who he presents himself isn't who he is. I mean, I did some stupid things. At some point, I landed up with a group of people. I don't smoke. And I landed up with a group of people who smoked, so they were passing the doobie past me. And I mean, I don't smoke, so I would just pass the doobie on to another person. And in the end, I was as high as they were. I mean, I went through high heels down steps. I mean, I think I did this going down those steps. But if I didn't have the experience, I probably wouldn't have believed anybody else that had the experience, that they didn't actively partake in it. And it's the richness of our experience that makes us who we are. It brings us to the person who we are today. I know people that has the most tragic past. That's the gentlest people today. I also know people with tragic pasts who today pretend that that's never happened. And for me, being authentic is to share. And I mean, obviously there are things that you would like to keep private, but to share your experience so other people know that they are not mad. I counseled a man, he's in his 60s, on Friday, who has severe anxiety. And he came to me because I'm a shaman and a spiritual counselor. And I said to him, when last did you relook with the psychiatrist your medication? And he says, no, let's put my medication aside for a moment, like we cannot. For you to change your experience, we need to look at how your brain chemistry works. Once we fix your brain chemistry, then we can look for alternatives. And he said to me, you take such a pragmatic approach, and I was expecting that you're going to take me on a ayahuasca ceremony or some pedro, and I said, where you are right now, it would be dangerous. So we had a long talk about medication, and I did convince him to have his medication seen to, because he's not relooked his medication for 10 years. Now that's dangerous for somebody who's got a diagnosable anxiety problem, because there are much newer medication on the market that can give him a lot more comfort. Then he said to me, okay, I'm going to give you an extreme example of my anxiety. I flew down to go and visit a friend, and 2 days before, because I didn't trust the woman I asked to take me to the airport, I took an Uber from our house to the airport. And I said to him, I can give you at least 5 people who doesn't claim they have anxiety problems that do things like that. And he says, okay, but I'm not telling you everything. It's like, okay, tell me the rest. It's like, then I walked back home to figure out how long it would take me at 3 o'clock in the morning to get to the airport. So I said, okay, that's a little extreme. But he assumed because he has anxiety that everything he does that's an anxious response is attributed to him because he has anxiety. And a lot of the examples he raised was not. I said, you may have walked to this dude's house to ask him what the hell. Other people would do it by text message and would send like 100 messages before this guy wakes up. And I think if we just learn to share more, it will help to give others a lot more comfort.